Hi, everyone. For this episode of Retention Zone, I'm trying something different. What I'm trying to do is a crossover episode with my friends at the Media Bit, Maureen and Claire. Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
So maybe you can start telling our friends listening and watching what is the Media Bit and who are Maureen and Claire.
So Claire and I are both friends and colleagues. We work together on a variety of projects for the media industry, for private equity funds and for also strategic corporates. And one day we were sitting in a restaurant and we decided, hey, why don't we just share some of our fun facts about the industry and our anecdotes? So we decided about 2 years ago, over 2 years ago,
I
to
think
set
it's
up the
3
Media
now.
Bit. It's 3. Sorry. Thank you, Claire. It's quite a while ago, and we're almost at now episode 70. We talk specifically about. We do deep dives, evergreen sort of topics. We do guests. We do crossovers now, and we also really do tap into the news of the day. So we go from business, we go from city-led sort of activity into really sort of content strategies, and really talk about the different players in the industry. And wow, there've been so much going on in the last couple of years. That's what we do on the Media Beat. What I do in my day-to-day job, I'm a media partner at a management consultancy firm, Arthur D. Little, and I advise private equity investors, and I also advise corporates for media strategy. And that's kind of what I do, and I love it. And I love working with Claire too. Claire.
And I love working with Maureen. My background is it's more in content. I have several decades of experience in television and digital media, and I think what's fun with the Media Beat is that we complement each other very well. Maureen is the expert when it comes to financial results and how to make money, and I tend to talk more about behaviors and watching patterns and content strategies. And I think that that works quite well. Although we also share tips on what movies to watch, because why not? So that's us.
Okay, thank you. And maybe I'll do a piece on me so you can use it if you want.
Yes,
that would be great.
Yeah.
I'll keep the video like that. And I'm Carlo De Marchis, sometimes known in the sector as a guy with a scarf. I have now 38, mamma mia, years of experience at the intersection of sport, tech, and media, with a lot of focus on fans and audiences too. I've been a chief technology, chief product, chief marketing, chief evangelist, mostly work for one company. So it has been a fun career because I was always at the limit of what I understood, and a lot linked to innovation in sport media and trying to bring some joy to fans even when their team lose. Like in my case for Torino, it happens a lot. So thank you for having me. Bullshit. Dunque, I didn't say anything about retention zone.
That was really nice. That was really nice.
I just need to add the retention zone part.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah.
And I'm a bit south of your 70 episode. I'm at 62 episode now with Retention Zone, which is a video podcast focused on streaming, monetization, churn, and retention. Okay, so let's start. I think. The first question can be about, I think, streaming and how is media doing. This needs to be a bit short, otherwise then I've kind of peels of sound bites about how is the media business doing, media entertainment business doing, or whatever, sport media. I know I can use the mags. It's media, entertainment, gaming, and sport, the way Amazon calls it now.
Yeah.
How do you think this sector is doing? And a quick view of that, and you can split as you wish. Just be predictable so I can change the stop you.
Well, so how is it going? Good to me. I'll do a quick overview on the content, and then I'll hand over to Maureen on how the money is going. Does that work?
Yes. Yeah.
What? Hold on. 1 second. I was going to do a bigger picture. So do we do bigger business models, and then you go into content? But I don't. What do you think?
Yeah. So
I'm
do it like
gonna,
that.
because I'm going to do
Yeah.
this like consolidation, fragmentation, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And then because that's better, isn't it, to start
Yeah.
first, and then
Yeah.
like really short. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect. Works well.
So my first question is, and I want to use a term that I discover Amazon is using internally, AWS Amazon, media, entertainment, gaming, and sport, MAGS. How do you think this industry is doing these days?
So I think this industry is probably still in a flux, right? Streaming clearly dominating viewership overall. I mean, we see the gauge at Nelson's barometer looking at specifically, streaming and broadcast and cable up there in the sort of mid 40s. So not yet hit the peak, but definitely in flux. And what do we mean by that? I mean, I'm referring to consolidation at the top and fragmentation at the niche level. And what we mean by that is effectively you're seeing either mergers and acquisitions that are major players like Paramount. Disney's been looking specifically at keeping and retaining some of its operating divisions, but at the niche level we're talking specifically about DAZN or FUBU and the likes, NBA League having its own sort of propositions. So there really is now a kind of bipolar consolidation at the top and fragmentation. And that in turn is leading to a variety of different business models out there. And really, the two major things are subscription models. We're seeing subscription fatigue, and then we're seeing ad funded subscription models. And that in turn is really leading to some really interesting financials, really interesting, more sustainable models, leading into different content plays as well. So that we can discuss in a little bit more detail, but the intersection of live sports is becoming kingmaker, really the linchpin of a lot of these subscription models. And as I say, either ad funded or subscription. I'll stop there.
And I think the other thing that's happening that's quite interesting is at the audience level, things aren't moving as fast as people thought. And so there is a sense that the streamers came in, everybody came in and said, we're going to change the way people watch television or content. And we have changed the way people watch television or content, but they're also changing the way the business works. And we're seeing this with, the subscription streamers going, oh yes, they will keep adding subscriptions until the end of the world, because actually it's not that much money compared to what they were paying in cable. And then audiences going, actually, do you know what? We don't need those subscriptions. And we found out that if you churn every 3 months and get out, since there are no penalties for going out early, we can do this and we can still watch everything we want. And that works. The streamers were saying, we're going to dump all the episodes of a series. People love binge watching. And, fast forward a few years and people are like, well, do we love this? Or actually, is this a much more sustainable model to drop episodes 1 week at a time? There was an idea that seasonality was dead, that everything was going to happen, everything everywhere all at once. But that's not true. That's not how people consume content. And so we're seeing the return of seasonality. We're seeing that people watch very different things in the morning and in the evening. They watch different things in the autumn and in the spring. They still watch some live events, especially, of course, sports, and they want to watch this in a certain way, not necessarily the way the streamers thought they wanted to watch it. And so I think we're seeing a very interesting dynamic happening between what the business models are saying and then what the audiences are actually doing. And these two things are influencing each other, but this is something that happens a lot in tech, right? That the tech people will say, this is what we know you want. And then the users will say, well, actually, do you know what? That's not true. That's not what we want. Or that's not what we want yet. We might want it in a couple of years' time, but we're not ready for it. And this is that interplay is happening at the moment. It's quite fascinating, but it makes for very difficult predictions and it makes for difficult financial planning. And it means that it looks from outside to be a little bit all over the place.
And one other thing as well. I mean, although Claire, you touch on the subscription fatigue, if you look at Netflix's results, so the fourth quarter of 2024, it was a staggering additive net number of almost 19 billion. I mean, millions, sorry, getting carried away with my billions and millions. And that actually blows away any numbers that Netflix was able to achieve during the pandemic. So it's staggering, of course, driven by, and Claire, you'll attest to this, driven by what? Some decent content. So you've got Squid Game and also live sports.
Live sports and free subscription month. I'm going to wait and see, and we won't know because now suddenly Netflix is not giving us subscriber numbers. But there were a lot of people wanted to see those live football, American football games. Sorry, Carlo, this is what happens. We're going to go into an argument. A lot of people wanted to go and watch those movies. I think quite a few people do the free subscription, and we don't know because we won't know if they've cancelled it. But live sports for sure has driven these numbers.
Yeah, but the ad tier numbers that they are putting out there, here we go. Yeah, are like 40%. 40% of the new subs are ad tier. I know they're going to binge and bail. And Claire's lovely phrase that she uses, which is the serial churners. That is true. However, I think Netflix and in particular Amazon are really going down this road of really smart. Netflix calls it the engagement ladder, and it's using AI to predict when Claire, Carlo, and me, when we decide that we're going to churn, or they think that we're going to churn, they then tantalize us with either really curated titles. They're tantalizing us with some really interesting new offers. And they're tantalizing us also with some decent content. So I agree with you, Claire. They may be bringing us into the corridor, probably for free, but guess what? They'll retain us. And I just love this idea that Netflix has got this, they call it the engagement ladder. And then you've got Amazon who's doing clever things with, parties and communities around the different sort of live sports, NFL and the like. So I think they're being really smart. They're going above and beyond just simply saying, okay, that is going to churn out, and the cost of acquisition for another me or you is too significant, and the city doesn't like that. So I think they're being smarter on their mechanics. I think they're being smarter, and there's a lot of money out there to grab. I've seen a statistic that says something like, the Claire's serial churners are worth probably 1 to 2 billion in top line revenue. So there's a lot to go after, and so I think they're being quite clever, and also they're spending. They're going back and they're spending more money. Netflix is spending 1 more billion to its numbers.
Okay.
But,
okay. I'd love to hear what Carlo has to say on how live sports is influencing this, though, because you've seen it from a very different angle.
Yeah, there are two things that I have in mind at this point of the discussion. One is absolutely live sport is somehow the linchpin. I don't think in terms of Netflix that what they said is not a big retainer for now, but I think in general it is. But I wanted to put a little provocation connected to the serial churner. I had an episode with Jeffrey Gilbert, who at some point said, churn is good. The way, which is, possibly not the retention zone mantra for now. But what he was saying is, if you don't have churn, it's kind of, you're not risking enough. You're not getting a bit, not top of the funnel. You're not getting those casual users, which are now organic. So you're not really growing in that area. You're just staying with your avid fans, whatever it means for you. And to be honest, I'm more interested in, I like a lot what Maureen said, the top and the bottom, with all respect, the big consolidation and the fragmentation on the bottom. I'm more focused on the bottom because that's where vendors in our industry, which I've always been a vendor in my whole career, that's where vendors can play, because the big guys, Amazon, the mantra is we do everything ourselves. Others don't really use minimal vendors. They have these own core platforms. So, but when the market is more active, is in the fragmented area. So the question is, do you think there is a way in which churn is good? And then I have a second question.
Yeah, I do, but it depends how much. I think, there was a moment where churn was just too high. I think 3 to 5% churn is is absolutely good. You're absolutely right. If you don't get that level of churn, you're not risking enough, you're not attracting enough, you're not pushing your service enough. You're going to lose a few people. The other thing that we know now, because we have enough data, is I saw this, that's an antenna stat that says that 25% of cancellers resubscribe to the service within 3 months of cancelling, which is enormous. So actually the sort of raw churn number isn't correct. You have to look at it from the distance. So some churn is good. But I think there was definitely a time in the last few years where that churn was just too high. And we know from looking at mobile phone providers and any subscription service that's existed before that at some point churn becomes really counterproductive, and then you have to start managing it. You have to start locking people in for longer periods, adding incentives, retention. So that because ARPU is always higher than keeping new customers. So I think you do need churn, but you need to manage it as a sustainable level, which for a while it wasn't. I agree also with Maureen that the large players, Netflix and Amazon, are doing a lot to manage churn, although I'm less sure about your discovery point, because I think discovery happens elsewhere, but it doesn't matter. As you say, Carlo, I think the issue is for the smaller players and how they manage this complicated funnel when there's just less money to play with.
And if you want also from Maureen, my question is to expand it a bit, is what is the path to growth for the fragmented part of the industry, if you like?
Yeah, no, I can touch on it. Can I just add a point about building on what Claire's saying? Yeah, I think there was an oversupply in the market, and when you have that, you're going to get a move towards, as the economists would say, equilibrium. So I mean, we all had 5 to 6, 7 subscription packages, and that just is unsustainable, no matter what type of content you've got it on there. And of course, we all know we had probably 3 main subscription packages. The Netflix, the Disney, Amazon for different reasons because of Prime, but the others, touching on this sort of fragmentation point, we'd have 3, 4, 5 very niche subscription packages. But with fiscal tightening, with oversupply, you're going to move towards in a more controllable number of subscriptions, and hence the reason, and Claire sort of touched on this as well, we moved into the super bundles and the bundling again, because then you see a perceived value and you get simplification of billing as well. So I think part of the discussion around churn is also around sustainability of what realistically, how many hours in a day and what's the pennies in your purse. So that really does drive this kind of number of subscriptions, and then the churn factor sort of is a feature of that. Your point about I guess, let me just touch on the fragmentation sort of types of players, and then the growth factor attached with that. I think we do like, be it anime or be it a subgenre of film and TV, like Crunchyroll for anime, or BritBox for a bit of drama, or Shudder for horror, those kind of niche positioning players, or even DAZN, which one wonders now whether or not it's playing in the big league and with the big boys now. But DAZN is an interesting one, and I think they will always, if they get it right in terms of content, will always attract the right sort of audiences. So my sense is that we'll have these really interesting players if they found their audience, and the growth will come with, I think, hyper targeting and hyper personalization. For some of these small players, AI then will become quite pivotal in how they can, in a cost effective way, really target, do the discovery piece, get the personalization, and get the curation right. So I think for them, the fragmentation players, or the smaller players, the niche players, I think will continue and will survive, and will be able to fend off the larger consolidators, in my view. But Claire, I don't know if you sort of ascribe to that kind of thesis or not, but there's a couple of things in there, including bundling as well.
Yeah, I think for me, bundling is the way forward for the smaller ones, as it was in the cable world. I mean, this isn't, we're not inventing anything here. I think it's partly it's the discovery and marketing costs have just become unsustainable for smaller players. I mean, they're really, really high for Netflix and Amazon already, and they are in many ways the best ones at locking people in. So I think if you are not one of the top 2 or 3 services that people don't want to lose because they're sort of part of the utilities at this stage, then bundling works, and we know it works. We've seen it with Canal Plus in France. We've seen, Amazon's just added Apple TV Plus to as a premium bundle, and that's driven, I think it's 25% of all new signups to Apple TV Plus in the last measurement time. I don't know if it was a quarter, came from Amazon, and this is from Apple TV gives a lot of free trial subscriptions as well. So bundling and super bundling will simplify the value proposition for the users. It will mean less problems with discovery, and it will lower marketing costs significantly for the small streamers, which means that they can focus on what they're good at, which should be content strategy, content proposition, etc. So for me, that for the next few years, that's going to have to be the focus. But I also think there's going to be, some people are going to go under. There's going to be a lot of consolidation. Not everybody will survive because it has become too busy.
Yeah, and one thing, if I think about my media diet, I'm kind of a tea person. So wide interest, and then I have some deep one that maybe move by time. So the niche. So it's I need bundles to make sure the family's happy, etc. But then I may have 1 or 2, depending on the time, deep. In sport, I would say I'm an avid fan of something. And I always thought that's kind of almost everybody, maybe not really, but especially in sport, the F1 recently launched a premium tier, more than what they already have in F1 TV. And that's, if you're an F1 avid fan, that's what you want. Very often the media rights create an issue because there is not available everywhere. But to me, that seems so kind of a solution that could work for everybody. A bit of bundle services plus some deep one. But again, maybe not everybody's like that. And the problem is the sustainability. And the one thing I listening to you, I thought, but is it a moment where we need, even if ad and subscription together are much better than before, because as you said, as a serial churner, you are subscribed, you go in the free tier, you're still in the family, you're still inside the garden, so you can easily go back, right? But is there a time where we need some new monetization model? What do you think?
Monetization model, do you mean beyond what we discussed in terms of
microtransaction? Because pay-per-view, it doesn't. I don't know. Yeah, sometimes I have to buy a movie because my kids want to watch it, but it's not. It's always a friction. I need to pay. I don't know. Will someone invent something new? I don't know.
Can I just interject? This is where I think, weirdly, cable operators have a huge role to play, and they are playing that role, because actually microtransactions on cable platforms so much easier. So if you're a Orange client in France and you have their platform, which is called OCS, and you want to buy a movie, it just goes onto your cable bill. You never see it. You just click yes, and then it happens. It's absolutely seamless, and that's the sort of thing that you can do when you have an existing billing or setup with your clients. And that's, so I think microtransactions, pay-per-view or micro subscriptions for a week, for a day, the passes that you can get, a season ticket, all of these things, they need to be reinvented, but you need to find a trusted billing partner. I know this is what we used to say back in the day, and then people thought, no, everybody's happy to give their credit card to everyone, but that's not true. It's also especially not true when you're on a TV, which is a very still not user-friendly way of entering any information. And so what I'm seeing potentially is a renewed role for those big cable operators who are being very active in this field. But Maureen will have a view on that, I'm sure.
And I think it starts with that. Absolutely, it's the trusted payment service and the ease at which you can just click. One click, it can only be one click, and then you go either buy stuff. So the e-commerce platforms. I think in the US, this and Carlo, you may have a view on this, but because of the opening up of sports betting, I think this is where we might see collaboration. I think we are starting to see collaboration between the viewers being able to seamlessly bet alongside sports. Now that comes with, and Claire's the technologist of the two of us, that comes with, you've got to avoid the latency issues. You've got to get, excellent sort of, 8K plus, and you're going to make sure that the infrastructure is great and very good. And I think that sports watching, sports positioning stats alongside that is happening already live, as well as being the ability to actually bet. I think that so gambling through to some really fascinating data on that particular sports event to basically rights holders, and being able to sort of view the NFL or the NBA or golf. I think that's going to be a smart way of additional monetization and seamless transaction activity. And that doesn't necessarily have to just be gambling. It can also be shoppable merchandise. I want that particular pair of socks that fantastic Catalan basketball player is wearing at the moment. I want it now, and I think that can happen. I'm a basketball fan, so I'm a basketball player and a basketball coach, so I always like the references to basketball. So I love it. I love
she's
it.
very tall. You wouldn't tell.
I'm very tall. You couldn't tell. No. I've got long legs but short body, and long arms. Yeah. But yeah, I think the technology piece, Claire's always sort of referring to, because certainly in the gaming industry, and I think lessons will be learned from the gaming industry, and still are, around how we can do that seamlessly. So latency issues clearly are being overcome. The idea of in-game brand activity has been happening for 10-15 years. Shoppability and viewership and stats and informed purchasing and gambling is going to happen, I think, and all around sports. I go back to sports is the kingmaker of
music,
of our content, and music. Well put, and music too.
One last thing that I want to talk about is and again, I'm still focused more on the fragmented area of the industry. Data and AI will play a major role in growth. It's obvious. But can we specify a bit more what it could mean? Obviously, on the insights and intelligence was already something. Having tools that really can help you understand, take decision, and take action. But I think with AI and all the agentic AI that everybody's talking about, and I'm using a lot of that, this could be automated at a level where it's so smart that it's finally working. And forget the big ones; they still don't know what to recommend. So that's what I see as a problem. If the big ones are still struggling, will this new wave of tools that the fragmented side can use and can sustain in terms of financial affordability make a difference?
Okay, I'm going to stop, because then Maureen will go and be an AI evangelist, as she always is, and I'm more of an AI skeptic, not completely skeptical, but slightly less positive. I think we're quite far from a very effective recommendation engine, even AI powered. I think that just at the moment, it turns out the human mind is a little bit too complicated to really be. It's a combination of the quality of the content, which an AI agent finds very difficult to understand, what the real decision-making power is, the fact that people don't watch the same thing at the same time or listen. I mean, if you think about music this time, or the AI created playlist on Spotify, they should be better, but they're not, because actually it's not that easy to predict where people want to listen. I do think AI and agentic AI in particular have a huge role to play in really making the whole subscription management process much better, much more efficient. And if you're a small player, fragmented player, I would put all of my data, protected obviously, into an AI agent and said, knowing all you know about me, how should I split my marketing money, my push between my own platform, between super bundling, between licensing content versus creating my own content. So I think on this, there's so much more improvement that could still be made on the back end, not so much the front end, the discovery. I think that's still very tricky. And maybe I'm being overly pessimistic, but I really haven't seen proof that it can be done as efficiently as people think, partly because actually your average audience member is platform agnostic and they don't want only to watch Paramount Plus because they're on Paramount Plus. And so it's very difficult to limit your choice in that way. But I think at the back end, at the churn management end, at the subscriber acquisition end, there's so much more improvement that could be made there, and I think AI could be incredibly powerful there. So that's my view certainly for the next. Well,
I tend to agree. Let's see what Maureen extract from the hat, but I tend to agree with that.
And I think this is so disappointing. I'm probably in agreement with the two of you. So I really do believe that the workflow processes, that is where all the media companies, including studios and content creators, are focusing their time and effort. It is around and also retrieval of augmented generative information. So RAG also is now playing a big role in just sort of locating and identifying and sending your agent around to find that information. That is best place, as Claire alludes to, best place in the processes, so behind the scenes, in understanding your audiences, in understanding segmentation, in understanding behaviors, and in understanding churn management and just billing as well. So I totally agree on that part. I think where it is starting to really show some really good use cases, and beyond just POCs, people are working on it. It's definitely in the marketing agency side of things, and some of the content creators and programmers are looking at this quite carefully. But if you just think about CGI, it is doing so much great stuff from a content creation side. I mean, look at Sora. Sora can now generate a video for 1 minute. It was started at 15 seconds, is now a minute. That will be two minutes in very soon in 2025. So I think on the content creation side, it is becoming a bit more effective. It is being brought into the ideation of content, and also now where it needs to sort of gather momentum, it will be in sort of the quality side of it and in placement of that. And that's working for short form commercial advertising. It is displacing everything we know about how to create a commercial, but the quality side of good programming, it's not there yet for that. But where I think it's going to be really interesting is in the next generation user interface, and I think we will start to, and I'm so looking forward to this, have our own sort of homepage where we will be able to get a little bit more curated content, access to content, and be it in the morning, be it in the afternoon, really teaching it the behavioral parts of us as viewers. I really do believe that that's going to come, and I believe that that's probably a 2026 set of activities. So slightly in agreement with you guys, but at the same time, I'm not dismissing what it can do at that front end on the content creation side, because I think it is doing some good stuff. But yeah.
So I think this is a perfect ending, because you said 2026. So I imagine we could redo something like this next year to see where we are.
The predictions. Let's do that.
Carlo, would love to just briefly, if you don't mind, hear your thoughts on AI and within the context of what you work on, and where it's making a difference already, where it's potentially going to make a difference in the next 12 to 18 months.
But I will soon publish something that is defining myself as an AI artisan, and we can talk about that. So I'm using, I don't know, 20 tools every day, constantly. I think it's a great experience. It's very far from what people is, because if you deeply use AI, you have a different opinion. I understand all the limitation, and I understand all the risks. But I also understand that if you use it in a very deep and smart way, it's an extension of you. It's not a replacement. In business and in this kind of industry, I think maybe the back end is where I would start in terms of being, because one thing is doing POCs and tests and see what the technology can do. the things I'm focusing on is how it is integrated, how it is adopted by people and businesses and products, and how it will impact not what we do today, but how, because of the front-end aspect, how the thing we are doing are different tomorrow. Because there is a lot of AI will replace, but we are thinking we are producing or creating the same stuff. If, as Maureen said, the interface will be different, then it's another word. So I think it's a very intellectually super sophisticated. And I think, as I've always done, to be honest, at the limit of what I understand is just immersing myself in the subscription streaming and in general, this kind of business. Clearly, the marketing intelligence, subscription intelligence, billing intelligence, I just recorded an episode on that. That's where, if adopted, if integrated, because otherwise it's blah, 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 it will start to make a difference. Then we need to see and improve it. That's where I am, more or less.
Yeah, great.
Okay. So thank you for your time and the very energetic discussion we had. Really nice.
Thank you very much, Carlo.
Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Carlo. Yeah,
Ciao.
it's been a pleasure.
Ciao, ciao.